Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to our webinar today with our newest partner, Red Pepper. We'll be talking about engaging the modern shopper and how you can drive sales growth with personalized digital advertising. I'm Sarah Rivers. I'm the Senior Director of Connected Commerce here at IGA. And today I have with me Amit from Red Pepper. So Amit, I'll turn it over to you and let you get started.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sarah. Appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to the conversation and happy to share about what we're up to. Maybe for those that don't know too much about Red Pepper and provide a little brief background on who we are. We are a young startup, about 6 years old, 7 years old now. Originally, our background started off in the publishing space, so a lot of background in the digital publishing arena. And really, when we started to enter the retail space, we started to look at how we could help support retailers and brands transform traditional static content into digital marketing assets that were truly engaging, customer engaging assets that could be used to for targeted advertising, to drive customer awareness, customer engagement, and bring those shoppers to the brand, to the retailer, and ultimately come into the store and drive sales. And we've been doing that now for well over 6 years or so. Maybe I'll provide a little bit of a brief overview of the platform, and then we'll jump into really the topic around the strategies around engaging the modern shopper. So when you think about Red Pepper, we really see ourselves as being a platform to help the independent retailers engage their shoppers with digital tools and digital technology, and really give them the tools that the big national guys have at a scale that helps the independents compete and manage that relationship with their customers. So really it starts around automating the advertising strategy and how we can help drive interactive campaigns at a weekly item and price and promo level. How do we help retailers scale that out across various digital channels to get in front of their shoppers that are most meaningful and most key to their demographic and their buying markets? How do we tie those advertising ad units to an interactive experience that can be shoppable, that facilitates shopping experience both in store and online? And then ultimately, as many of our retailers are starting to embark upon now, how do we take the insights around that engagement and drive personalized experiences? So these could be personalized ads that make their way out into paid advertising channels. These could be personalizing the weekly ad itself and showcasing what's most relevant, most recent, and what's most top of mind. So with that, we'll jump into kind of our core topic of today, which is engaging the modern shopper. And so increasingly, when we think about the modern shopper and the challenges that they undertake, the reality is that their data is telling us that, increasingly these shoppers are less loyal, although retailers are spending and investing tremendously in loyalty programs, loyalty platform. These shoppers are cross-shopping brands. They're shopping your brand, your competitor's brand, the big nationals, and they're continuing to look for value focused. They are pre-purchasing or pre-shopping a ton before they even make their way into store. This could be digitally, this could be through physical, this could be through comparison solutions. And ultimately, these shoppers are looking for inspiration and relevance. Typically, I think data tells us that 86% of US shoppers are switching brands and banners consistently on a monthly basis, and they're continuing to look for things that drive value and drive inspiration and curation while being able to save. In addition to kind of those 3 points, I think it's important to understand that the behavior is changing not just within a specific demographic, but across all demographics. So the data is telling us that increasingly shopping starts digitally, browsing starts digitally, and it starts digitally across all demographics that we're seeing. So they could be mobile phone, could be the iPad, it could be from home, it could be busy on the go, it could be from the office, but increasingly 80% of this traffic is being driven, or this initial awareness is being driven digitally. data is also showing that what's most interesting to younger generations is definitely inspirational content and curated content. So this could be recipes, these could be pre-formatted recipes and coupons. This could be items that are tied to cultural events or significance, but increasingly curation and inspiration is what's driving relevancy when we see the buying behaviors and the shopping behaviors on a week-to-week basis. And then I'm sure retailers can like this, but increasingly our shoppers are inundated with choice. We've seen the rise of marketplace and marketplace applications that provide aggregation, that provide shopping across various retailers in one place. And this convenience, this mobile first approach, this digital approach is increasingly flooding shoppers with more information and more choice. And what that's really driving is a question around who owns this customer. Is this customer continuing to be your customer that shops locally with you, that is traditionally, down within a certain radius of your location, or is the same shopper that orders from a marketplace platform increasingly the marketplace's customer? And I think this is something to be aware, and one of the things that faces the modern shopper. The last thing I'll kind of call out around behavior is that digital is not going away, even though we still see 90+% of sales happening in store. The shopper always has the phone, and the phone is with them in store. And even though they're physically in store, they are shopping digitally. So they're continuing to browse, they're continuing to compare, they're continuing to look at promotions and curations, even while in store at your location. So what does this all mean for an independent retailer, right? How do we put this all together? And we typically hear the following 4 challenges around struggles that independents communicate with us today. So acquisition is costly. What does that mean in terms of acquisition? But how do I get in front of my customer? How do I get them to come into the store or shop online with me? How do I continue to reach them in a format that is engaging with them, that is a cost-effective campaign for my marketing budget? How do I continue to do key marketing activities that are competitive with maybe national budgets, but at my local level? Competition continues to rise. Increasingly we see the continued concerns of the national retailers and brands, the dollar brands, the online-only retailers, plus the marketplace platforms. So how does an independent stand out and differentiate with the budgets and the technology and the communication channels of these national players? Digital is still falling short. And what does that mean is that when we're investing in digital programs, it's not simply enough to just have your website or to have a PDF of your product and promo, but how do we actually engage in digital channels that are meaningful for the retailer? And how do we recognize that print is going to continue to decrease over time? Its costs are going up, its distribution is getting harder. There are continuing to be zip codes that are hard to put a physical print into, and kind of complements the need for digital to pick up and replace, especially when it comes to distribution and grabbing attention. So when we look forward to what the modern shopper now expects, we typically see these 4 buckets that are driving a ton of interest. We're seeing shoppers that are wanting to see personalized offers and wanting to see things that are relevant to them. Convenience and relevance is paramount, and that's why you've seen so much success with some of the marketplace vendors that are out there, the digital first space solutions. Shoppers are driving primarily through their research through that digital experience, as we talked about before, and we're seeing that across all demographics. And loyalty is important, but loyalty is a function of being given the right content, the right relevancy, and the right location. And so when we see retailers that are able to impact across these 4 categories, and that's when we see kind of loyalty win, not just in having a loyalty program itself, but actually delivering across these 4 areas. And that's ultimately what's driving visits and sales lift and sales growth. So let me jump into a few different tactical things that we can present that can have value for the independent retailer and provide you some easy ways to get started around this journey for yourself. So the first area we typically see value for retailers is taking what has traditionally been your item and price, your weekly ad, your weekly flyer, and turning that not just to an online document, but an actual, what we call shoppable digital flyer. A shoppable one allows you to build a shopping list. If you have e-commerce enabled, we can directly shop from the circular and add to cart and be able to complete your basket transaction there, or simply build a shopping list and come into the store. Being able to shop all the variants that are available on sale. So not just showcasing maybe one or two items that may be in the print because of limited space and size, but being able to see all the items that are available on promo. So let's say we're shopping Lay's potato chips, all the flavors, all the sizes, all the packaging, all the multi-packs available, even if the actual printed circular only shows one or two items. Typically, this also providing a robust digital solution also helps reduce costs of the traditional flyer production. We're seeing retailers reduce print altogether, or only have digital versions, or move to a world where maybe the printed circular is only 1 or 2 pages, while the digital one might be 6 to 8 pages. And given that there's no limit on what digital can provide, it allows you the opportunity to present a lot of item and promo content to your customer. The last thing that's important to note is that the digital circular is probably the most valuable digital content that a retailer can generate, and it should be embedded on your own website, on your own e-commerce site if you have one, on your own app, versus being trapped in maybe a third-party application. We want to help retailers actually engage directly with their customer and bring those customers to their digital properties as opposed to maybe an aggregator property. The last thing specifically for independents, part of the IGA program, is you can participate in the National Digital Ad Program if you're already doing so, and pull those promotions that are being provided weekly at the national level directly into your local flyer, your local digital flyer, and make it available to your shoppers. So the next step of the evolution of that digital shopping experience is really around personalization. Once we start to create the behavior where shoppers have an interactive shoppable circular directly on your website or on your e-commerce site, we can start to take insights and behavior around that shopper and actually present them with curated content that is specifically for them. So we can provide recommended items based on past purchases, recommended items basically just based on demographic information, or could be even items that we believe have a high propensity to be valuable to that individual based on your loyalty information database or some other recommendation engine that might be available to you. And then from there, we take that same insight that we get from the digital circular around personalization, and we can actually now think about, how do I take item and price at a digital distribution perspective and actually do programmatic advertising that happens over the internet, whether it's on Google or Facebook or Meta's properties. And instead of just having your name or your brand or a link to your main website, we can actually have the top 5 items we want to promote, or maybe the specific items that are relevant to Sarah that she's most interested in, and have that presented to them as they're browsing the internet, or maybe they're looking for a recipe on the Food Network, or they're busy in their day and they just happen to be surfing on their phone. We can target them with relevant specific items that are meaningful for them, and that allow them to click and add to cart or add to basket directly from the advertising unit that they see on, say, Google or Facebook. Another area that we're seeing tremendous investment from on the independent side is, as independents are starting to think about loyalty, and I know we spoke a lot about how, shoppers are not loyal in their cross-shopping brands, the ability to embed the interactive circular within a loyalty app investment actually provides one closed framework for a shopper to naturally pick up their phone every week and shop your store. Whereas they may have gone and searched, or they may have looked at an aggregator site, now there's a higher propensity to shop locally with your own store if they're actually in your app and they can see their weekly ad. And so we're starting to embed a unified experience for the digital circular that sits within a local shopping app. They can add to their cart, they can have their loyalty card, they can clip coupons, and all of this experience creates a better customer experience for them to shop on an aggregator site or to go to your competitor's site. And this provides another feedback loop for personalization. So I think all of this is really paramount, is underpinned by the data that you can manage. And I think when you think about investing in any of the digital technologies that are out there, whether it's a Red Pepper solution or one of the other Red Oval partners, it's really important to understand what information can I get that can help me make better business decisions around my shopper, their journey, so that I can provide the right item and price in relevancy based on location, based on the advertising channel, based on the medium they're going to see that. And so that's where we believe strongly in being able to instrument the shopping behavior of your customers. So can I see what item and price are driving the best promotional activity up in the marketing funnel in terms of engagement? How is that making its way to the store? Am I able to marry my marketing spend with my sales impact to truly measure sales lift around my marketing and advertising spend and get a true return on investment analysis? And that's where pulling this data together, both on sales data as well as marketing impact, is important. We also think it helps for foster targeting, right? So as you get better understanding of item and price on a weekly level, we then reinforce that when it comes to targeting. And ultimately, a single place to see this data, both for marketing metrics and sales metrics, is designed to help drive. So I'll quickly summarize a couple of takeaways, and then we can open up for any questions that might be there. So the primary things that we definitely want to see retailers take away from this session is relevancy is key. It's not just enough to invest in the loyalty program and the loyalty offers, but actually being able to use data to drive relevancy, data to understand targeting and to make sure that we're supporting the shopper and the buyer throughout their buying journey whenever they start their buying. So researching online and through various mobile devices and obviously through channels. And then ultimately, the more you can think about personalization, both in the weekly ad, but also in your programmatic advertising strategy, is going to help drive loyalty back to you, both from a customer acquisition perspective, but also a customer retention perspective. And then kind of maybe with that, Sarah, I'll pause for a second before we continue to see if there are any questions that I can help field.
Yeah, I guess I can ask one question that I kind of a frequently asked question, right? So the first one would be, why do I need advertising when I can just email my customer base with weekly offers? So I'll let you field that one.
That is a conversation that we have with many of our customers today. And I think that, yeah, to the question about, I've got a great customer database. I email my customers with the weekly offers and I directly drive promotions to them. Why would I need to consider digital advertising strategies outside of email marketing? And typically email is one leg of the stool, right? In terms of getting in front of your customer. There's a couple of things that are important to understand. One, your email database is only as good as your customer database is. It doesn't mean that they're also not cross-shopping brands and being able to cross-shopping other retailers and looking at other promotions that are out there. So how do we make sure that we're continuing to get their attention before they're in that email? The third piece of that is that email marketing is great for already people that shop with you. What's our strategy around acquisition, right? If you're in a highly competitive market or you're in a market with competitors coming in, they are very much focused on customer acquisition. So that's definitely where a pillar of your advertising needs to go to, is going to make sure that we're not only just communicating to the people that shop us and love us often, but are also bringing in new customers to be able to retain those ones going forward as well.
That's perfect. The other question I get a lot, and I can add to this as well, but I'll let you answer first. Why do I need digital when my sales are all in store?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and many retailers think that these are siloed channels, right? So digital is just for e-commerce, and physical is for visiting the store in person. And to kind of the point earlier in the presentation, the buying behavior has changed, and buyers are shopping digitally in terms of doing their research, in terms of comparison. They are mobile, they are digital. It doesn't mean that they're completing the transaction online. And actually data tells us this completely, is that, still majority of sales are happening in person, but the ability to market to them effectively to traditional means is harder and more cost prohibitive. And then digital also offers a way to get a measurable ROI a lot better. So I can target much broader audience. I can geo-target them around my store. I can pick the demographics that have the highest propensity to want to buy. And I can actually measure how effective that marketing campaign is in terms of bringing foot traffic into my store. And that's just measurements that you never really had on the traditional print side.
Right. And I think too, one thing I think as marketers, we tend to forget, and we boil the digital circular down to products and price points, right? Which is taking the glamour of food completely out of it. And something you mentioned earlier was inspiration, right? So shoppers many times are not shopping for items, they're shopping for meal solutions. And how can we inspire people? And so when you look at your total marketing and what that shopper journey looks like me, for example, I could be scrolling through Instagram, I see a cool short form video on some recipe, then I go and Google that recipe, then I go and find the store, read reviews on, so see, you need to have like social media, you need to have reputation
100%.
management, you need to have your listing on Google. So it becomes part of the bigger strategy, the digital strategy, and you need to kind of be in all places where your shopper might discover you. So that was to your point.
100%. But the inspiration and the curation is key. I know we sometimes think about these as things that live in other retail verticals and maybe not, but to your point, this is the number one thing every week, families are looking for is inspiration around meal prep, inspiration around recipes, even just inspiration around categories, whole foods, wellness, protein, right? These are things, protein, exactly. Protein is everywhere, right? So these are the things that are driving curation, even though, a grocer may think of them as staples, right? But that's how the shopper is definitely driving their weekly list building.
Right. And I think if a retailer, if you could see that shopper journey, like if you could stitch that all together and see how they go from a social media channel to Google to your website to your digital circular, like it's kind of mind-blowing how many touch points, right, they take when they're doing that research. Okay, the other question, I have is I measure promotion effectiveness from my point of sale system. Isn't that enough to evaluate how well my marketing promotions are performing?
Yeah, so I think traditionally when we look at campaign effectiveness, again, we're thinking about the weekly promos that are being run. They could be vendor sponsored, CPG sponsored campaigns or national coupons, and they're primarily the ones that make their way into print. And the measurement has traditionally been at the POS. So how effective was that campaign? But when we take a step back, we want to think about the actual impact around, are these even the right things to be showcasing a shopper? Typically when we look at data with our retailers, and we like to bring marketing and merchandising onto the call at the same time, because merchandising will have a very strong opinion around what are the items that are performing well. And we want to show protein, we want to show steak, it's barbecue season, it's tailgate season, or whatever it might be. And then when we look at data, and we might say that, the data that's actually showing what shoppers are engaging with from a curation perspective, it's the fresh produce, it's cherries, it's a salad kit. And those are the things that are typically eye-opening to the merchandising team, because marketing has that insight to say, well, the things that are actually getting the attention of the shopper out in market and bringing them in to eventually then buy the protein or the tailgating item is actually these other areas that are actually bringing them in the door, bringing them to our content. And so it's not just enough to measure at the sales level. We want to actually measure the items that are engaging at the marketing, at the ideation stage, at the awareness stage. And those two things need to be married together to better able to understand campaign effectiveness. And when we do that, we'll actually see that we can look at total basket size growing when we actually bring in the marketing mix and the items that are performing well in the awareness campaign. And we actually see the basket size grow the largest with the items that are actually performing highly on the marketing campaigns, not just a single promotion item at the POS level.
Right, so that's the cool thing with the circular, right, is you can kind of heat map the items that are on the circular, so you know what people are engaging with in the circular, and then you can marry that up with the sales in the store to see what's resonating with shoppers.
Absolutely. And then we'll see sometimes things that'll sit on page 3. page 5, all of a sudden we're having a conversation with merchandising and marketing to readjust how you even think about layout and how you think about the sizing and what's on right on the front page in terms of driving the biggest campaign effectiveness. And because there's sometimes insights buried into what shoppers most care about when they actually go deep into the circular.
Right. And that's something that you just can't do with print, right? You're like,
Definitely
well, my
can't
sales
do
were
with
this,
print.
so I think it was because of the print ad, but who knows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do it with print, and you can't even do it with e-commerce, because e-commerce, you're already transactionally buying. You're already down the funnel of saying, I need 5 things, quick add to cart, and I'm done, right? Versus that circular still presents that curation, that inspirational moment where I'm flipping through this week's items.
Right. Right. Well, that's awesome. We don't have any other questions. It's great to start off the new year with some new ideas. So lastly, you'll be at NGA, right? And so retailers can connect with you there in person?
100%. Yeah, appreciate that call out. So we will be at the NGA next month. Please come see us. We'll be at booth 401. We'll actually be doing some digital marketing assessments for clients that would like to have a quick evaluation done around their strategy and look at running, a couple of quick wins to see how they can get up and running. So please do come and see us at booth 401 next month at the NGA show.
Awesome. Yeah, IGA will also be there, and IGA is celebrating our 100-year anniversary this year. So we'll be kicking off that celebration at NGA as well. So we will see you there, and thanks so much for your time.
Awesome. I just call out, we do have some couple of upcoming webinars with IGA scheduled for later this spring. So we will be running another one of these sessions if you found it valuable, and where we'll be bringing one of our IGA members to talk about some of the things they're doing to take control of their digital experience. And I think later in the spring, we're looking to do an innovation session around how independent retailers can kind of leverage technology easily to kind of compete against those national retailers, as we talked about. So thank you for the opportunity, Sarah. Appreciate it. My contact email is up here on the slide. Feel free to reach out to me if there's anything that Red Pepper can help you with.
Great. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye, everybody.